All right, boys and girls, we have many different routines and procedures here in the art room that you don't have anywhere else in the building. So, we're going to talk about some of those routines and procedures and even get to practice them. Okay, this is going to help all of you be successful in the classroom throughout the whole entire school year. Now, last video we already talked about all of those art room rules, and they all apply when we're going over the routines and procedures here in the class, okay? Okay, the first one that's the most important when you're entering the room is how to do that, right? How to enter the room. Okay, so when you get dropped off and you're standing outside the classroom door, you need to wait for an adult to tell you that you can enter the classroom, right? So either I will wave you in, or if your homeroom teacher is standing there and they see that I am ready for you, you can enter the classroom. And when you do that, you first want to make sure that you're entering quietly, okay? You're coming into a class and you're getting ready to do some artwork, right? Art work, meaning work like you have to get ready to get in the mindset of making art. And so I want you to come in quiet, take your seat immediately, and then wait patiently and quietly for that class to begin, right? Okay, so then you need to be listening and waiting if I ask for help, if I need a volunteer to pass out supplies. Okay, so let's take a moment. I'm going to pause this video and we're going to get up and we're going to try entering the classroom just like I explained. All right, next thing that we're going to practice is organizing materials for cleanup. Okay, so let's go through it first, and then just like we did with entering the classroom, we're gonna practice it as well. Okay, so a lot of times when we are working on projects, students get so into what they're doing that they don't wanna stop whenever it's time to clean up. So let me just tell you right now that that is not cool, okay? I need you guys, when I say stop, you gotta stop. I love it that kids are so into art that they don't want to stop and they want to just stay in my room all day. I love that you guys are so excited about it. However, we all have things that we have to do, right? We have a really strict schedule that we have to stay on. You have another class or lunch or dismissal or whatever you have next, you have that going on. I have things happening after your class. So when I tell you it's time to stop, see that big stop sign on there? That means stop. Not in a minute, not in 5 minutes. I mean right then. Okay? Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. Okay, so when I ask you to stop, stop working, right? Next up, clean up quietly. I often have specific instructions for where different things go. You got to stop working and open up the ears so you can hear those instructions about how to clean up, okay? Often, if you have an artwork, you're going to put it in a pile in the center of your table or put it on the drawing rack, right? I will explain those instructions as we are doing it. Sometimes I'll even tell you a couple minutes before we start cleaning up, so you got to listen, okay? Then you got to listen and return those materials wherever they go in the room, and you might even need to organize them on the table too, right? I will tell you specifically for that class what to do. And then if the table needs to be wiped off, which we're going to practice that too, you're going to wipe off the table. Okay, so notice in the center of your table, I have some supplies. I want you to go ahead and grab all of those supplies, take some of the quote unquote artworks and set them in front of you. Take the other supplies, move around the table like as if we were using them. And then I'm going to have you guys, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go through the instructions on how to organize and clean up those materials for the end of class, and we're going to practice doing that, right? Cleaning up and listening at the same time. All right, I'm going to pause here. Let's try it out. All right. Next routine that I want to try out with you guys and practice is wiping down the tables. Okay, this one really needs to be practiced, and I want you guys to know my expectations on this one ahead of time because I will tell you what, most classes they get this wrong, okay? So I want to avoid that. From now on, I want you guys to know exactly what I expect of you, what you're supposed to do, and what you're not supposed to do so you can get it right, okay? So we can avoid any errors with wiping down tables because it's actually like really easy, right? Okay, so first thing is you need to find the sponge basket. Now, I'll either hand you the sponges or I might say send one person back to go find sponges, right? So you have to find the sponge basket first, okay? So let's see with your eyeballs, can you find the sponge basket in the classroom back by the sinks right now? Okay, so now that you see the sponge basket, right, imagine that you're back there. You would grab 1 to 2 sponges per table, okay? I will probably tell you that class to grab 1 or grab 2, okay? Okay, so let's say you're the person back there grabbing the sponges. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna wet the sponge in the sink, and then you need to, this is so important, this is it, listen, completely wring out all the water from the sponge. Look at the board. Do you see how there's a picture wringing out the sponge, okay? We do not want any super soaked sponges ever, okay? Okay, so find the sponge basket, get 1 to 2 sponges, get them wet, wring them out. Step 4, double check the water is wrung out of the sponge. It should just be damp. Step number 5, squeeze that sponge 1 more time. Okay, sponge should be squeezed out by now, right? Step 6, take that sponge back to your table, or if you have 2, take them back to your table. Step 7, wipe off the table. You and your table mates, you guys can do this step together, right? You can all share the sponge, pass it around, whatever works, okay? Get the table cleaned off. And then last step, return the sponge or sponges back to the sponge basket. So when we go to line up, I actually won't even call your table if I still see sponges on your table. You gotta take them back to the basket. Okay, so I want you guys to quickly, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. You're gonna pick the person that's going to get the sponges and we're going to practice this. We're gonna practice it 2 times. So I'm gonna count backwards from 5 and I want you to figure out who the person is that's gonna try it first. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you should have that person figured out, whoever it is. I'm gonna pause the video and then we're gonna try this routine. Okay, here we go. All right, now that we've gone through all of those routines, we're going to do the last one, the one that ends class, right? Getting called to line up. Okay, so some of these things kind of overlap, right? You have to know how to get your table all cleaned up, you know how to wipe down the table if needed, and then you have to do those things first to get called to line up. So let's go through this list together first on the board before we try it out. Okay, first, make sure your table is cleaned up and organized, right? We already practiced that one. Second, you want to sit quietly, so volume 0, in your seat and show me you're ready. So you might be like, sitting like Mona, for example, okay? Number 3, listen for your table number. So look up above your table. If you forget what your table number is, you can just look up and say, oh, I'm table whatever, right? And then when I call your table, you want to go ahead. Step 4, push in your chairs when called. Okay, so notice that I underlined that one because it's so important. If you don't push in your chairs, other people in the classroom, myself, we might fall on those chairs that are out. Okay, so that's like a safety hazard. Not cool. Okay, we want to make sure everybody stays super safe. So you gotta make sure you push in the chairs. If not, I will send you back to your seat to do that. So just make sure you do it. That's why we're practicing, right? And then last one is to line up quietly at the door, and there are arrows on the floor. I'm gonna be pointing to them, right, as I'm going through this. You wanna line up on those arrows, and to be on the arrows, you have to be in a single file line, okay? All right, I'm gonna pause the video here, and we're gonna practice. All right, last thing that we're going to practice is a fire drill. I'm just gonna tell you first about how we go through a fire drill. It's really not that different than any other fire drill that you've done before, but I love to go through a fire drill with you guys so that when we hear one, because we have a fire drill once a month, when and if we hear one in this classroom, you know exactly what to do. You don't need to freak out. You can just feel confident that you know what to do, okay? Okay, so let's go through it on the board. When you hear that fire alarm, you want to set down whatever you're working on. If you're at the sink, turn off the water. If you're at your seat, set down your art supplies, right? Set down your work, okay? Next up, push in your chairs, right? Remember we talked about that for lining up. It's super important you push in your chairs. We don't want anybody, walking towards the door without looking down and falling on a chair, okay? Next up, quietly, we're moving towards the door, okay? In a single file line, make a sharp left out of the door, okay? We're gonna go straight down that hallway and out the doors at the end of the hallway. You're gonna stay on that line straight out into the parking lot that's right there. That's the little parking lot that's like off on the side that has the basketball hoops in it. You guys are gonna walk straight out and you're gonna keep your line on one of the parking spot lines, okay? Okay, you turn around, you face the building in that single file line. I will count you to make sure that we have everybody. We'll stand out there, wait patiently, right, until we're told we can enter back into the building, and then we will return to the classroom quietly. Now, kids talk during fire drills. I just went over multiple times how we need to be quiet. So now there's no excuse for you guys to be talking when you're with me. You're absolutely not talking during a fire drill, right? You have to be listening. You have to be aware of what's going on. In case I need you to do something special or whatever, I want you guys to be aware. So if you hear somebody talking next to you, ignore them, okay? You have no excuse now because we went over this here. You know the expectations now, all right? So I'm gonna pause the video, and if we have time, if we're able to right now, we might be trying this. If we don't, we will just be trying it when and if there's a fire drill with you in this room. All right, any questions on any of these things? Now's your chance.